The air conditioner is still not installed. Look at all the pipes still hanging around. Here it is on top of the MB56 battery, waiting for the installation. Hopefully this week, hopefully, because we will get some really hot days this week and I hope we have the aircon installed by then. But today we actually don't need it because we are pretty cloudy. And this will stay for another couple of days until we get the big rain from the north. Yeah, there is another cyclone forming at the east coast of Australia and it's slowly creeping down towards Brisbane and we are expecting some rain from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday onwards. Temperatures are not too bad actually this week. 31, 29, 28, 30, 32 and in the night drops down to the low 20s. So far the Off-Grid Garage weather forecast. Okay my friends, welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage here in sunny and hot Australia. You can see this here. We've got 8.5 kilowatt in these cloudy conditions, but it's changing quickly, 7.5 only. So we will see this going up and down, up and down. Guys, in today's video I want to talk about my energy dashboard here in Home Assistant. This video is probably not for everyone if you don't use Home Assistant. Maybe this is not very interesting. You can probably skip it until the next time when we build another battery or do... Actually, we will build another battery, but not with EVE cells this time. Yeah, I had many emails and many requests from you guys talking a bit about the energy dashboard I have created here in Home Assistant, how I monitor my system, the inverters, the BMS, the batteries, the load, and how this all comes together here on this dashboard. And I don't want to go into too much details here with coding, YAML code, Ginger, automation and all this kind of stuff. So this will more be a broad overview. I will link all the different cards I'm using, all the hacks, integrations I'm using down in the video description. So you will have a full list of all this stuff I'm using. And usually this goes to a GitHub website where you can have more information about this specific card. But first of all, computer classes. Oh, I can see. All right, let's start with the mobile phone because this was the main purpose to create this dashboard because it fits on one screen of my mobile phone. Yeah, whenever I open Home Assistant, I have this overview with these 4 rows and 4, 6, 9 gauges here, triple gauges sometimes. And I don't need to scroll back or click on anything else. This gives me the full overview about my system, about the solar, the inverter power, the battery state of charge, the currents, the temperatures, what's the multiplus doing, my main inverter, and if the generator is running or not. Yeah, of course I can scroll down and get all the information which I have on the big computer screen here as well. But this was the main purpose for me to design the dashboard so it fits on one screen of my mobile phone. No scrolling, no clicking, just bam, it's there. Yeah, in one of the last videos we have used this dashboard here to witness the full charge of all these batteries here connected in the battery room. That was before the installer came for the air condition actually, because there's only a few batteries installed at the moment. I couldn't cope with the battery shelf alone, you know. My wife comes home, plugs in the vehicle and then it sucks up all the energy of this battery shelf and we barely make it overnight. So I really needed more batteries. So I've connected another 130 kilowatt hours at the moment, so it's a bit less than before. So we already know a bit about this dashboard here, yeah. So up here we've got the battery state of charge. This is the overall state of charge of all connected batteries. We've got the battery shelf here with 77% and the power wall. These are all the additional batteries connected with 98% state of charge. And these cards here, they are called modern... Hang on. Let me quickly go into the code here. It's called modern circular gauge. And this is a very, very powerful card, as you can see from the right hand side here, because we can have up to 3 entities showing in one gauge. Yeah, here the power wall, the battery power, this is the overall power going into the batteries at the moment. We've got the battery shelf in this light green color, which is the inner circle, and the more greener green here for the power wall, all the other batteries. This is the gauge here in the middle, and overall we've got this fat gauge here at the outside. Yeah, and by the way, the colors of this dashboard giving me a quick glance that everything is all right. So everything green is good. Yeah, I don't need to worry about it. I don't even need to look at numbers or something if I'm not interested. Everything green is good. Obviously the solar is yellow. And if something goes red, we are either discharging, or the battery is low in state of charge, or the inverter power is too high, or the multiplus is close to turning on the generator. So this is when the colors actually change of this gauge. And you can set this all up here via the GUI, so you don't need to code anything. You don't need to have any experience with YAML code or Jinja or whatever it's called. So just as a quick example here for the battery state of charge, yeah. So here in the middle, these 91.4%, this is my real state of charge. This is a sensor entity calculated by Home Assistant because the IBMS does not calculate it correctly. It only takes an average of 77% and 98%. But this is not correct because the batteries connected to the Powerwall are far larger than the batteries connected to the shelf. So it would give me a wrong overall state of charge. Yeah, this is the first entity you put in. You can also use an icon, which I have disabled here. And then you have a secondary info for the second gauge and also a third one, which is the tertiary, the third information. This is the third entity you can set up in this one gauge, yeah. And this is my IBMS master. So this is the main entity, second entity, and third entity here. Use these color segments, for example, for the state of charge. So from 0 to 20% we have red. From 20 to 40% we have yellow or amber, and over 40% it is green. And you can add more colors if you want more differentiation, or you can even switch to a template and have a smooth color gradient from red all the way to green without any steps in between. So it changes color very smoothly. Yeah, and this is basically how you define one of these gauges. You don't have to use 3 entities for each gauge. Here for the shunt voltage, for example, I've used only 2. You can use only 1 if you want to. And you can define how far the circle will go around. Or even here with the current or power, it can go into negative as well. If you discharge the battery, it turns red, it goes the other way. And the same with the current as well. Current is usually positive this way, clockwise. And if it goes left, counterclockwise, it is discharging the batteries then, yeah? So you can define all this here in the entity via the GUI, no coding needed. And of course, all these entities are clickable. So when you click on it, it gives you the graph of this shunt. This is the auxiliary shunt for all the additional batteries. You get all the information here in Home Assistant for this particular entity then, as usually. And same for the temperature. If I click on here, I can see the temperature. Yesterday we had close to 35 degrees in the battery shelf, and then it dropped down. And this morning we started with 29.1. And you can also do something like this here for the generator, for example. I have set a current limit of 9 amps coming from the Phoenix inverter, feeding power into the multiplus if needed. Yeah, the multiplus will switch on the Phoenix inverter, the generator, automatically if it goes over 3.5 kilowatt for 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so. It turns on the Phoenix generator as an additional help. Yeah, and then it can pull an additional 9 amps from this Phoenix inverter. But I can also click on this here and I can change this. I can change it to 10, 11, all the way down to 6. I think 6 is the minimum. And then it would pull only 6 amps from the inverter. Now it has switched to a 6.1, yeah, which is the lower limit of the inverter then, yeah. And I can also turn this on manually. So if I click on here, I've got a switch. If I turn this one on, the Phoenix inverter will start manually, basically, without the multiplus having requested it. And I'm using this sometimes when I test batteries. I want to discharge them into the big system. I can use the generator, the Phoenix inverter, to do that. So I can turn it on manually and it stays on until I turn it off basically again. As you can see, you can also use text input as well as switches, binary switches in this circular, modern circular gauge, whatever it's called. So any entity can be displayed in this gauge. And before that, I used actually these standard gauges here from Home Assistant, and they work of course as well, but they can only give you one entity at a time. And as I said, the goal was to have this information on one screen on my mobile phone, and the standard gauges from Home Assistant actually couldn't do that because they were then so tiny I couldn't actually read them anymore, even with my good glasses. Whoa, sun came just out. 9.7 kilowatts, nice. So just underneath we have this information here about some statistics about my batteries, some crucial parameters I want to know about. So basically the CVL, what is the maximum charge voltage we have set, the CCL, what is the maximum current, and the DCL, maximum discharge current. Well, the discharge current is actually not important for me because I'm off-grid anyway. The inverter ignores the DCL altogether and discharges the battery until the battery gets low or all the BMSs have disconnected the inverter. So I can probably get rid of this one, I don't need it. We've got the battery voltage here, and this is an average across all the connected batteries, battery shelf and the auxiliary batteries, all of them combined average to do automations or to trigger the status of the IBMS from bulk to absorption to float. And this card here is called, I have no idea, I've totally forgotten, it's like a vertical multi... Yes, and this card is called a multiple entity row because we have more than one entity in a row. Yeah, here I've got 4 of them in one row. And I don't need a graph for this one, yeah, a number is enough for me to see, okay, CVL here 55.2 volts, because these numbers usually don't change anyway. Unfortunately, you cannot use this card with the GUI. You need a bit of coding to get this set up, but it is very easy, even I could understand. This is the whole code basically, so it tells you what type of card you are using, the multiple entity row card. You give it an icon if you want to, and then you list the 4 entities you want to show in one row. You can also only show 2 entities or 3 or 4 or 5. So I probably copy this code here and put this down in the video description to get you started. And what you have to do is you just change these entity names to your own entity names in your system, and you're up and running in no time with this card. And then you just do a copy and paste, but it gives you a good template. This is usually what I do. I copy this code from one of the existing cards into a new card and then just replace the entities. As I said, all the information about this card down below. There are a ton of more information you can actually display, like the precision, the name. There could be a different icon. There could be 12.5 kilowatt. Woo! And here we've got the set voltage. This is basically the voltage I want to charge to. And this is where the automation is behind. Probably the only automation which actually taps into the charging process of my batteries here, because usually I don't use Home Assistant for doing that. Because what are you doing if Home Assistant doesn't work anymore? Yeah, the system fails or the automation fails or something, and then what? You overcharge your batteries or so. So I really rely on the Venus OS system from Victron to keep track of all my batteries and do the safety stuff. But Home Assistant is more like an add-on, and I use it only for monitoring the whole situation. But really actively doing something, very limited. Yeah, you can see the generator start, stop, and the limit I can set here. If I set it too low, the inverter will go into a fault. If I set it too high, it will get overloaded and go into fault as well. So it doesn't really harm anything. So 3 entities in one row. Yeah, it gives me a quick overview. What is the set voltage? Is there any fault at the moment? Everything is good. And the status is we are sitting on bulk manually. So we are charging to 55.2 volt maximum and stay there forever. Temporary setup until the big circuit breaker, the big MCCB arrives. Should be not too far off actually. They said mid of January, which is tomorrow maybe. Yeah, and then we've got the temperature 31 inside the garage and 35 outside of the garage. The battery shelf cycles, they don't work for me. I don't know what the JK BMS actually measures here. They are all over the place. I don't use these ones here anymore that much, the solar energy. So this is what has been produced today, 14.1 kilowatt hours and 1.6 from the tilt system on top of the house, which uses the microinverters to feed AC power into my microgrid. Yeah. And this is another integration I use, which gives me the maximum power output each day. Here it is called daily sensor. So you basically just specify an entity and then select mix, max, min, mean, median, and it tracks the information over your set time frame. Automatically resets at midnight basically. And this is an important information for me because it tells me how much inverter power do I actually need when we go fully off-grid. Yeah, when we don't have the support from the grid anymore and we turn on the oven and the hot plate and the microwave and the kettle and the dishwasher is running. So this tracks the maximum peak power per day this month in January. So we can see here the maximum was probably here 7.1 kilowatt. 7.1, yeah. 6.9, so 7.1 kilowatt was the maximum power I needed. It also tells me the point of time. So this was at noon, which is perfect because the sun is up. And this one was 10 to 3 in the afternoon. Yeah, so it gives me this information and I can determine how much additional inverter power I actually need when we go fully off-grid, if any at all. Yeah, and then down here, this is information about a rear link battery solar camera. It gives me the state of charge, the temperature, the status, and if the camera is sleeping at the moment or not. So again, this is a multi-row entity card situation, what we have used before. So here in the next column, I get information about the grid, power, price, and how dirty the grid actually at the moment is. So we have 56% fossil fuel in the grid at the moment because of all the clouds. And this is 474 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hours. And I've got the market pricing here in Australia for Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania. This is the big network on the east coast of Australia. Western Australia and the Northern Territory are separate. They do their own stuff. And of course I track my own grid here as well. And see, I'm actually exporting 3.2 kilowatt from the 5 kilowatt grid connected solar on top of the house. The other two phases, L1 and L2, are not doing anything. And down here gives me the energy I've imported, L1, L2, L3. Yeah, and this card up here is called Electricity Map. And I think it's part of the Home Assistant installation by default, so you don't need to install anything additionally. And down here for these electricity price cards, I have used the Mushroom template card. I know, it's called the Mushroom Entity card because it carries only one entity. But later on I've also used the Mushroom template card because with the template card you can also change the icon depending on certain values. You can change the color as per certain values and you can do all kind of calculations with template cards. So then we've got the grid connected solar finally, and this is the standard energy dashboard Home Assistant comes with. You just set your entities and it tracks your solar, your home, your grid and so on. Yeah. So this is very standard and basic in Home Assistant. And down here I've got another multi-row entity card which gives me the DC voltage of my grid connected solar, the amps coming from the solar panels and the power, and the same for AC, and the overall energy I've produced since they installed the system. And down here we've got the good old solar gate battery, the Palo, the 8 Palo batteries in series to form a 24-volt battery, and this operates my solar gate. And I never had any issues since we installed this one here. It is running perfectly fine. It is really, really good. So here again, multi-entity row card, voltage, current, state of charge. State of charge is not interesting because the current is usually under 80 milliamps and the JK BMS inside this box does not calculate this anymore. So state of charge is heavily out. Hence I'm using the battery voltage here to track kind of the status of the battery. Yeah. Minimum cell, maximum cell, the two temperature sensors, the BMS temperature, if there's any fault tracked with the IBMS, the voltage delta, and if the balancer is on. So this works. I'm impressed. I'm impressed about myself that this works so flawlessly down in the gate. Never had any issues. Every time you press the button, the gate opens or closes. No issues at all. Nice. So here, for example, I can click on the voltage. And yesterday we can see the absorption time here when the voltage goes up to 27.6 volts. Cloudy weather, so it doesn't really hold the voltage there, but it goes up for about half an hour and then it goes down to float voltage. And during the same time we can see the delta, the voltage delta spiking as well because we're increasing the voltage, and then we can see the voltage delta of a maximum 108 millivolt it was, but it went down fairly quickly within the absorption time to around 60 millivolt, 30 millivolt in here deviation. So with all this data captured here from the IBMS sent to Home Assistant, I can monitor the battery in the solar gate and can see when the absorption time there is. I've also seen the equalization time. It does it on the 28th of each month, and it rises the voltage, I think, to 28 volt or something for just a couple of minutes. I've set this period really short, but I don't know how to turn it off in the EP Ever Solar Charge controller. So it does the equalization once a month for 5 or 10 minutes or so. Well, over here, nothing to do with solar. These are my robot mowers from Motion, the Luba 5000, the Yuka 2000 and the Yuka Mini 800. They are all linked into Home Assistant as well, including the cameras, so I can see what they are doing, where they are, what the state of charge of the battery is, how much they need to mow, how much the progress is, and so on. Connection. Battery saver is something I have done because these mowers, when they stop working, they go back into the station and then charge back to 100%. And if you don't mow for a week, because grass doesn't need mowing, they sit there with 100%, yeah, which is super, super bad. And when I turn on this switch here, they actually charge only to 80% and then leave the station. They pull a bit forward and then wait there until the battery drops down to 60%, and then they go back into the station again. Now, that is totally wrong what I'm telling you, not between 80 and 60, it does it between 40 and 60%. So 60% it pulls out, battery slowly goes down, and 40% it pulls in again, recharges to 60%. So it does this circling and keeps the battery between 40 and 60% if the machine is not being used. And then if I want to mow the next day, I just turn this one off here and it charges all the way up to 100% and it gives me the maximum range. Yeah. We've got the same with the vacuum cleaner robot mopping situation inside the house. These ones here, they are more featured on Andy's Garage on my German YouTube channel here. So that's where I do all the robot testing and stuff like this. It is, I think, audio dubbed, so if you are interested, you can have a look. I'll link this down below as well. Yeah, and then we've got all my loads connected, or the most important loads. These are not all of my loads. The most important ones, the biggest ones. And this is a combination of Sonoff and Zigbee devices. These little suckers here, you know, you put in between your load and your power point in the wall, and they track voltage, current, power, energy, everything. And I'm basically only using Zigbee because they are so much easier to handle, so much easier to set up, and they never fail. Yeah, over here you can see I've got two Zigbee to MQTT setups in my Home Assistant. One is for the house and one is for the garage. And I've got a ton of sensors in there. You can see them down here. Lots of lights, smart dimmers, temperature, humidity sensors, and then these energy sensors here tracking all my bigger loads as well. There's an alarm light in the kitchen, so whenever something goes wrong with the battery here, a big red light will start flashing. And for the Zigbee to MQTT, I am using a pretty cool device. It's called SM Lite SLZB or ZB. Yeah, and this is the SLCB06M I'm using. It connects to your network on one side, has an antenna on the other side, and can act as a Bluetooth, Zigbee, and Wi-Fi hub. And they are designed and engineered in the Ukraine, so I bought two of them, one for the garage, one for the house, and since I set them up, they just work. They do their regular firmware update automatically through Home Assistant, and this one here in the garage provides Bluetooth and Zigbee hub at the same time. The one in the house does only Zigbee. Yeah, all linked below. So, hot water system, of course, gives you the temperature, the power, the energy we have used. And people always ask me, Andy, why didn't you get a solar hot water system or a heat pump or something? I want to show you how much energy we're actually using for hot water. This was yesterday 2.9 kilowatt hours. Yeah, for the whole hot water heat up per day. This increases slightly in wintertime when we have longer and hotter showers, but now in summertime, that is 3 kilowatt hours, yeah. And I got some quotes to get a heat pump installed or a solar hot water system. And the return of investment would be actually 27 years if I factor in the energy usage for hot water in summer and winter for my system. So I keep the resistive heater element inside the water tank, and I can turn this on here at any time via Home Assistant. I think there is an automation set when all the MPPTs go to float mode. So when the batteries are actually fully absorbed and it goes into float mode, it also turns on the hot water. Because then usually the batteries are full during the day and there's also still enough solar available. So get the access into the hot water. EV grid charging, this is what I'm using in winter to charge the vehicle when there's not enough solar and the batteries are all empty. Pool pump, of course, gives me information about the chlorinator, how much power and energy. Grey water pump, irrigation pump, the house pump. The spat fridge, of course, yeah? The spat fridge uses 100 watts at the moment and 0.5 kilowatts to keep all my spat ice cold. Because it needs to be ice cold if you use it. Yeah, calibrating a solar panel, it needs to be ice cold for that. And I can show you something here. Yeah, interestingly, so usually with a fridge or freezer or something, you can see these spikes. Yeah, it turns on, gets a bit of a spiky up to 800-900 watts sometimes when the compressor kicks in, and then goes down to these 100 watts. In summertime though, when it's really hot, like yesterday, we had 35 yesterday, the fridge doesn't turn off. Yeah, it turned on at shortly after noon, and then it stayed on until 10 to 4 p.m. So it was running 4 hours non-stop. Yeah, and this is a 20-year-old fridge I'm using here outside, and it has no trouble running all day long, keeping the drinks cold. If it's really hot outside for a couple of days, it doesn't turn off for 12-14 hours sometimes. But yeah, this is all tracked via Zigbee devices, all linked down below. Washing machine, dishwasher, all the fish tanks we have. You can see it down here. Aquarium 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is all tracked with the power. 6 huge fish tanks, 40 watts at the moment total power consumption, but the energy consumption in wintertime can go up to 7.5 kilowatt hours per day, and this is 100% for heating up the water, yeah, keeping the water on 24-25 degrees. But now in summertime we don't need this, so the heaters don't kick in much and it doesn't use much power at all anymore. And I've got one of the Zigbee devices at my computer and at the main fridge inside the house as well. And these ones using these multiple entity row cards as well. There are 2 entities usually, sometimes even 3 or 4 entities in one row here. Gives me all the information I need. Then we've got the weather forecast. Nice. Cloudy, rainy. That's when the rain comes from the cyclone. And then we've got a mix of clouds and sun again. It is in the middle of summer now, so yeah, my Tesla Model 3 is not on Home Assistant. I have not given any third-party application access to the vehicle. These details are coming from the Tesla wall connector. So I can see if the car is plugged in, how much power it uses and how much energy it uses during this session. So very basic information, yeah. Yeah, you may know about 1.5 years ago we bought this second electric vehicle for my wife, the GWM Aura. In Europe and other countries it's called the Funky Cat or Good Cat or something, and hence she called it Kitty Cat. And unfortunately here in Australia it doesn't get an app on your mobile phone with the car, so it has no connectivity and nothing. So you can't actually check the state of charge of the vehicle and stuff like this, or start charging or pre-cooling, preheating, all this kind of stuff what you can do on a Tesla, yeah? Start charging at a certain time or end the charge at a certain time. You have seen this on the Tesla app. You can do a ton of activities with the car and get all the information. Nothing like this with the GWM Aura here in Australia. So what I did to overcome this issue is I bought a little, it is called VCAN adapter. It is the VCAN OBD Pro. It is a small device, plugs into the OBD port of the vehicle. So all this information from the car travel over Wi-Fi into Home Assistant. Now we've got the coolant temperature here, the high voltage capacity, how much kilowatt hours the battery carries at the moment, the odometer, state of charge of course, tire pressure, tire temperature. I made actually a better dashboard for my wife because this is not very attractive here. This is basically what my wife sees on her mobile phone, and she can access and change all the settings for the car. And this is like a 2-part view. Up here we've got the vehicle settings, and down here we've got the charging station settings for the Victron electric vehicle charger. So obviously the name, the odometer, if the car is plugged in or not. Currently the car is not here, so obviously it's unplugged. When it left, it had a 70% state of charge, which was around 210 kilometers. it does a simple calculation from 0 to 100. 0 is 0 kilometers and 100 is 300 kilometers. It can do a bit more, but 300 kilometers just gives you a rough idea. She can set a time when she wants to leave. So for example, 8 o'clock in the morning with 80% state of charge. Yes, you can change this as well. So tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, the car needs to be at 80% state of charge. It now calculates, we are at 70% now, so we have to start charging at 5:28 in the morning to be ready by 8. And then at 5:28, it basically pushes the button of the Victron charging station here and turns on the charger. And depending on the charging speed, which you can set here as well, it's usually on 10 amps. The faster you charge, the later it starts, obviously, because it charges faster then, yeah? So it does the real-time calculation. So if I go to 12 amps, you will see the start time goes actually up, yeah? We are starting later because we are charging faster. We will still be ready by 8 o'clock. So the faster you charge, the later you can start charging, obviously. And then it gives you the amps and the power output of the Victron charging station here on the screen, as in the garage as well, in her shed. And she can also change the status of the charging station from manual to auto. So in the auto mode, it changes the speed automatically depending on the available sun and the excess power we have, while in manual mode, we're using this set current to charge the vehicle. And we can have a quick look here what kind of cards we have used. I can't remember what it's called, but it is actually discontinued, but there is now a new one, which I haven't set up because this one just works for me, so I didn't bother upgrading to anything. Info about. Here. This is the Ultra Vehicle card. Yeah, I linked this down below. You can download it still, and it still works fine, but it doesn't get any updates anymore. They now have the Ultra card. So it's not only used for vehicles, but for everything else. You can use it for your battery and solar system, for example. And you can define a ton in there. You can put in images. So when the car is charging, we've got the animation here in the green bar. And also the car has like a blue glow around it. So it's charging. And once it hits the 80%, it has a green glow around it. So we can see in one glimpse it is ready charged. Now you can set up bars and the information and icons. You can do a ton of customization with this card. This is just a small portion of information you can display with this card, because I've used my own automation then around it. And I didn't use too much details of this card. Oh, I think my wife just is coming back because the battery level shows now a different state of charge. And it picks up the weekend inside the car when she's down at the road already. That's how far the Wi-Fi reaches. And then it reads all the information from the car already and puts them here in Home Assistant. I was just seeing this while I was talking to you, that the state of charge actually went down. Now, there you go. The car is now plugged in. It should be ready by tomorrow morning to 80%, which is 12 hours and 51 minutes. So it gives you all the information. If I go up with the charging speed to 15 amps, which is the maximum I allow charging, it starts at 20 past midnight and is then ready by 8 am. So I'm pretty proud of this piece of dashboard I have built for my wife here. And she has no trouble to operate it through her mobile phone and Home Assistant and set all the settings correctly. So I guess this is probably my biggest achievement in terms of automation and dashboard so far. So yeah guys, this is my main home dashboard I'm using to track all my energy and power needs, solar, battery stuff and vehicle charging as well. But I've got a few more views up here to give me additional information about certain parts of this installation. I quickly go through it. I don't want to go into too much details. We have seen them in other videos already. So the next one here is work in progress. I haven't progressed much with it. This will be an alarm card, an alarm dashboard, and it basically gives me the information about basically everything. Yeah, if the internet is up, if there is a problem with any of the BMS, any of the IBMS, any of the inverters, if the bag of the vacuum robot inside the house is full, if one of the lawnmowers is stuck somewhere. So it's pretty much a dashboard for everything. And as soon as one of these entities trigger, I have conditional cards in my main dashboard. You can see them here at the top. And they only show if there's an alarm. If there's no alarm, they don't show. They are invisible. Yeah? And this is the condition. When the Multiplus has an overload alarm as a warning, show the card. And it looks like this then. Multiplus overload warning, reduce load immediately. Yeah, so this alarm dashboard here, work in progress. I'll show you again once this is all set up and working and so. So then we've got the, well, I don't have a name for this here. It's the consumption and production dashboard. I have featured this in the previous video as well. So basically it tells me how much I have consumed with all my different inverters and also the grid import, and what I have produced with the off-grid system alone with the MPPTs and the pool tilt system. So until now 15 kilowatt hours used and 24 produced. Makes a balance of 8.8 kilowatt hours going into the battery. Yeah, and down here we've got the same again, including the AC coupled solar, which will be connected to the off-grid system in 2 years time, which has made an additional 8 kilowatt hours. Yeah, we've got a balance of 16.7 kilowatt hours. So one battery here, one big battery box, fully charged today as an excess power. Yeah, got a little graph here, tells me the same again. But we also have cloudy days like these ones, and we are not making enough energy, but that's what the batteries are for, so no big deal. This one we already know, this is our battery shelf, and we have used this dashboard here as well to analyze what is going on with the middle shelf battery and the deviation, which is already at 72 millivolt already again. Jeez, I need to take this one offline here and do a full maintenance. And I've also got some controls done here for the IBMS, so I can set the maximum charge current here to a different value, as well as the discharge current, which I don't use anymore, so I can probably delete this. Discharge is not important. What is important is I can also disable the charging with one click here. And this sets the CCL to 0, and the solar only produces as much power as I actually need, but it doesn't charge the batteries anymore. And I've got also an emergency shutdown, which sets the CCL and DCL to 0, and this will also turn off my inverter. So very careful with clicking on this one, it will turn everything off. And we also have seen this dashboard here. This gives me the overview about the additional batteries I have connected, plus the battery shelf up here. I've got the Google Power Stack connected at the moment, and a Yishi Yang 2 stack, which contains the MB30 batteries and the MB31 in the do-it-yourself box from the last video. So these are in parallel as well now charging up. And for this here I have used the Mushroom template card as well. And then I basically display all the sensors in one row. Yeah, the voltage, the current, the charging power and the capacity remaining. In a secondary row we've got the maximum cell voltage, minimum delta and the master balancing. And here in the template card it is also possible, as I said before, to change the color. Yeah, if the power in the battery is larger 0, we are obviously charging, so we get a green symbol. If the power is 0, so nothing goes in or out, it is gray, and everything else is red, discharging. And this basically repeats for all the other batteries as well. And then I use another card which is called the custom mod card. And this only makes a border around this whole thing. See this white border? Yeah, because this is the battery shelf. It is a unit, and then we've got the 3 batteries inside. And this is what this card mod piece does. Yep, this is all it does. And I've done the same for the Google Power Stack, put a frame around it. So, and from here I can also click on the battery shelf. I haven't done this for any of the other batteries because it's so much work. It goes into a bit of a database situation, and this basically up here, I think this is only a text field, what is called Markdown. It's the Markdown card. And the Markdown card is basically the top part of this view. Yeah, and it is just text. You get a text field down here and you put all the information like compression, installation, dates, torques, and all the information you want. And it displays this as a text. That is all it does. And the second card here is called JKBMS card. And they have tried to make the design similar to what we can see on the app. Yeah, it has the switches here on top, charge, discharge, balance, voltage, the current, and then some information down here and the cell voltages down here. It can also do some animation once the balancer kicks in, and it has like a line from the highest cell, from cell number 3 here, all the way down to cell number 16. So you can see which cell balances which cell actually. So it's pretty cool, but it takes a while to set up because you have to, because these are all single entities. I'm getting them from the IBMS master cell voltage number 7. So I can track every single cell in my whole setup, every single cell. And I've got long-term history data of all the cells. Yeah, this is when I was discharging the battery down to almost shut down, January 6th. But apart from that, everything is tracked here. Crazy. How much information Home Assistant stores. Unbelievable. And I've got this for battery 1 top shelf, battery 2 middle shelf, and battery 3 bottom shelf. Eventually I will have this for the other batteries as well, but it will take a while. All right. Last but not least, we come to this beautiful card here, which I use a lot actually on my old tablet here. And this is one card. It is called the, you want to know what it is, right? Edit. Ooh, it is called the Sunsynk Power Flow card, link down below. And it does this beautiful flow chart with all the information you put in. You can have different card styles like a compact view, a light view, and a full view. They recently upgraded to 2 batteries, and you basically can set up all the information here. You don't need to do any coding. Everything is done through the UI. So here for the configuration of the MPPTs, for example, I have set up here garage west, garage east, carport, big shed. And down here you can set the entities for all these devices. And this is for controller 1, 2, 3 and 4. You do the same for power, voltage and currents. And basically at the end it displays all this information here on this side for your solar charge controllers. Yeah. So I've made 24.1 kilowatt hours today. At the moment, garage west, this one over there makes 1.5 kilowatt. The east roof just above us 1.4. Together 4.7 kilowatts, 33% of the maximum. It shows us the daily charge into the battery, the daily discharge out of the battery, how much power goes into the battery. You can see the animation. And we've got 90% in the battery shelf, 100% because I have connected these 2 additional batteries, so it needs to recalibrate now. That's why it shows already 100%. Gives you these animations with a color. In the battery shelf I've got 40 kilowatt hours, and in the other batteries 150 kilowatt hours. This one will take until 2 p.m. to charge to 100%. You've got the inverter here, which delivers at the moment 1.3 kilowatt. 1.2 is going to the house, and 125 is going to the off-grid system here. The tilt system delivers 613 watts at the moment, which will be obviously be used by the off-grid garage straight away, and the additional is coming from the MPPTs. And down here in blue you've got the grid parameters as well. Yeah, if I include the grid connected solar, it messes up my whole battery stuff because it thinks the solar charges into the battery as well. Yeah, that's a pretty cool card. It is a bit hard to see on the mobile phone, but here on the computer screen it is phenomenal. One card does it all. It just takes a long time to set up because you need to enter all these entities. Yeah, and of course you can click on all these entities here as well to get the graph and the history of each of the values. Yesterday we have charged 30 kilowatt hours into the batteries. And then we have this dashboard or this view here about all the 12 volt batteries. I have used the Batmon integration for that in the past, and I connected via Bluetooth to all the BMSs after a while, and got the information from all these batteries so I could see which one needs a recharge, what's the state of charge, temperature and all this kind of stuff. I haven't used this for a while anymore because it was working unreliably. It didn't connect to the batteries for weeks basically. The battery was already low on charge, and here it still showed me 30%. So I turned this off. I don't use this anymore. I can probably delete it or so. Yeah, I think this concludes the whole journey through my Home Assistant dashboards I use for monitoring the battery solar energy system. Yeah, except of this automation to change the charge voltage limit here at the moment because of the circuit breaker limitation. I don't use any automation to handle the power system. This has all been done by the Victron system. So if Home Assistant fails for whatever reason, it doesn't affect the actual power, battery and solar system. It just keeps running. So yeah, this will take me a while to link all this information down below, a bit of code for the multiple entity rows and stuff to get you started. And everything else is pretty standard. You can get this through Hex or through the GitHub sites they provide. There's always an explanation how to install this in Home Assistant. There are examples on the website and you can see all the parameters you can use. And this is just how I use this. The main purpose was this dashboard here to show me all the information about the battery and the solar on one screen of my mobile phone. This was the main reason I went with these gauges. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you have any other questions. I'm happy to answer them there or make a follow-up video at some point of time. Because this is a living organism here. It constantly changes and modifies and updates and deletes some stuff I don't need anymore, add other stuff I want to see a bit more in details. And as I always say, you either have a life, family, a wife, or you have Home Assistant. You cannot have both, basically. It is just so much stuff you can do with Home Assistant. It is unbelievable. It's incredible, but it's also very, very time consuming to set up these dashboards and to maintain them. Then there are updates coming, they break something, you need to go in and modify this again to make it work, and. So sometimes really frustrating. Most of the time it is perfect, it is amazing. So yeah, I'm very happy if you get inspired through this to make your own Home Assistant dashboards with some of the elements I've shown you here. Maybe you get some ideas and say, oh, this looks good, I can use this for my situation here as well. Let me know if you have any specific cards I haven't shown you, I haven't used yet, which are not very common. Don't forget, don't put any links in the comments because YouTube will just delete your whole comment and just put the name of the integration or card you're using down in the comments, and people will be able to Google that and find it themselves. Alright my friends, thank you so much for all your amazing support here on the channel. There are more videos coming very soon. If you are new here, consider subscribing to the channel. Like 119, I have to upgrade, close to 120,000 subscribers now. That is unbelievable. Thank you so much for that. And if you like this sort of content here, drop me a like. And until the next video guys, you stay charged and stay safe. Thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye bye. 13.2 kilowatts. Jeez.